And I think we are live. If I'm not, this will be very awkward. I'm using the Blue Yeti. I'm in the film room today because Lisa's setting up for her live stream, which will commence after this one. And that one's more of a relaxed kickback time. So if you guys want to hang out with us, play some PUBG or something, then that is what we will be doing after this. It will end in probably an hour or so. It really depends on how long we stick to the questions and whatnot. If you guys have tons of questions, obviously I'll be here longer, and I don't mind that because a lot of your questions, honestly, they're good questions. And if I don't know the answer, I say this every live stream, I try to anyway. If I don't know the answer, then I will do my best to research a topic and either address it in a video or I will tweet at you or something. We'll find a way to communicate. But anyway, I got the live chat up right now, and I am just all ears, folks, or all eyes. How would you say that? I guess I'm all eyes. Yeah, that's it. Also, how's the audio? I'm just streaming from the Blue Yeti today. No XLR interface or anything. So let me know if I need to turn myself up or down. It looks like my volume is right in the comfort zone there in the yellow. But if it gets too loud or you hear thuds on the desk or whatever, just let me know and I will do my best to address it. That's good. Sounds good so far. Awesome. I see a few of our channel members. I see Dan. I see our moderators, Tech Crimson. I know I saw someone else here earlier. Trucker Bomb's here. I see all you guys. Good to see you guys again. And again, this is a Sunday night thing, or Monday morning / Monday afternoon thing, depending on where you live. Time zones are freaking weird. Anyway. Okay, so let's get to the questions, folks. If you got some Q's, fire them out, and I'll try my best to dish out them A's, but I'm not sure if you guys ask some really technical questions, and sometimes it just catches me off guard. You know, I don't claim to know everything. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that I have to research heavily before I feel comfortable enough even making a video about some of these topics. So off the cuff, you know, if I don't know something, I will tell you, and I'll do my best to address it at a future date. So what's up, Victress22? Y'all's yellow batteries are looking good. Also, everyone who lives on the East Coast right now, pay special attention to the Weather Channel, your news stations, because if you are East Coast United States citizen, then you're probably watching the hurricanes that are going to be barreling down the Atlantic. So stay tuned and be safe, please, because those will hit more than likely before next Sunday night's live stream. All right, to the questions here. Let's see. This one's cool. Trevor with a 3. Random question for a tech YouTuber, but what was your first car? Totally understand it. I'm a car guy. My first car was a Mazda 6. I was 16, and I didn't really need a car. We took the bus all the time to school. My parents rarely dropped us off just because why not? I mean, the bus is free. My parents don't have to worry about taking us so early in the morning, especially for high school. High school started so much earlier than middle school did for me. I think middle school started at like 8:30, and then high school started at like 7:10. So, I mean, sometimes the sun wasn't even up by the time school started for us, and that was a little weird. But I took the bus until I was 16, and then my dad decided to buy me my first car. So we went to Tampa, Florida. We bought a Mazda 6. It was a V6 Mazda. And it was a pretty cool little hatchback sedan, whatever you want to call it, but it did have the hatchback trunk, and it was a peppy little car. It's still, actually, my parents still have that car. I think my little sister drives it now, but it was a good car. Not too many problems. I got into a wreck with it when I was 18 or 19, right before I went to college. But once it was fixed up, car has been running pretty strong since. I mean, it's a Japanese car. They're known for their long-term durability. I just realized that the chat wasn't scrolling. There we go. Okay. Ramsey Tabara, when will 2080 Ti benchmarks come out? September 20th, I think, is the day. It might be give or take a few days, but I know it's like September 20th-ish. And that will be the day that you will see all the tech tubers, throw out benchmarks. Ted Crimson asked, what did you figure out was the problem was with Lisa's PC? I don't know why she's complaining of stuttering, and I know that it's not her system not handling the stream properly because she's got a 2700X in there and a GTX 1070. Like, there's no reason for any stuttering at all. I think that, and we checked OBS settings and all of that. I'm pretty sure we've narrowed it down to the graphics card. I think it's the riser cable, which would be like the obvious, that was something that I probably should have thought of right away. But she has a riser cable in there to turn that card sideways. And I think that thing might be going bad, and that's why under intense loads, she notices that it stutters every now and then. And riser cables are super touchy, super sensitive, because there's so many different connections there on that PCIe bridge that you have to, keep streamlined and without touching each other, without crossing over. And when you, bend and flex that riser cable, you can have contact between pins and disruptions in data flow and all that good stuff. So that's why you might see stuttering. That's something I've experienced with other riser cables. Sometimes riser cables don't even work. You don't even get signal from your graphics card. So it all depends. Let's see. Kofasa, Science Studio, what's the formula to calculate what PSU wattage you need? I watched your video, but I feel like it's overestimating too much. But okay, so it's supposed to overestimate too much. That's the point. So I think my safety factor was 1.5. So I would take all TDP sums. And remember, TDP and power draw are not the same thing, but you can use TDP to kind of gauge power draw. Let's say, I know for like the 67, or I think it's a 6700K, and one of them's like 91 watt TDP. But of course, when you overclock that, you're going to be consuming far more power than 91 watts, and the TDP will also go up as a result of that. And I'm pretty sure the TDP rating has to do with the base frequency and the boost frequency. It doesn't account at all for overclock. So when you overclock, you're going to be consuming a lot more power. Obviously, more heat is dissipated from the CPU. You'll need a bigger cooler than a 91 watt cooler to keep things in check. Otherwise, you're going to thermal throttle. That's what TDP seeks to do, is kind of gauge how much heat you'll have to dispense to the air via some cooler. But what I do is I take all the TDP sums and then I multiply by a safety factor of 1.5. And so, for example, if you have, a Ryzen 7 2700 and a GTX 1070 like Lisa does, I'm pretty sure the GTX 1070 is in the 200 watt. Let's just say it's 200 watt TDP. I don't remember off the top of my head. So 200 watts there, and then let's say 100, and I'm pretty sure it's a lot lower than 100. Let's just say 100 watts for the 2700. Now, of course, you got smaller things to consider. You've got, you got to power your pump, LEDs, whatever, RAM. All of those things are going to consume tiny bits of power. But the two major components, obviously, are the GPU and CPU. So with those two combined, that's 300 watts, and then I multiply by a safety factor of 1.5, and that gives you, 450 watts? So you could get by with a 450 watt power supply with a GTX 1070 and an R7 2700. And I've done something very similar to that before. People overestimate the heck out of PSUs, out of the wattages, but it doesn't hurt to, as long as you're not buying like a 1500 watt power supply for a 400 watt load. And at that point, you're actually straining your power supply on the other side of the spectrum. It's difficult for power supplies to output small amounts of power relative to their total, power rating. It's also difficult for them to maintain high power loads with respect to their power rating. So you want to stay in the sweet spot. That's why the efficiency curve exists. And yeah, there you go. Okay, let's move on to another question. Let's try to fire some quick ones off here if I can see. Sound FX09, do you plan on revisiting older graphics cards that you have? Prices for GPUs are incredible in the used market right now. And yes, actually, I just bought a 980 Ti for like $260. Now I know you can get it for cheaper than that, but I spent $260 because this was the Zotac Amp Extreme Edition, so it overclocks a lot. And it's got the two 8-pin supplemental power connectors and whatnot. So I paid a little more for just the power overhead, but like I was so surprised by how cheap they were. Even 1070s are $250 right now. That's your time to jump on. I wouldn't blame you at all for buying a used graphics card right now in that range for $250. Because let's say RTX ends up being everything we hoped it could be and more, right? 50+% performance increases, and let's say that the third party, the add-in board manufacturers start selling these cards for, let's say an RTX 2070 sells for $450, which that's not going to happen out of the gate, but let's just assume for all intents and purposes it does. You're still not going to be upset spending $250 on a 1070 because the 1070 is still going to have a similar FPS per dollar ratio. You're still going to be spending an equivalent amount of money for the same amount of performance, relatively speaking. So if you spent $450 instead of $250, you wouldn't be throwing away money, essentially. You can always resell that card later on anyway, and it probably won't drop in value much more than they already have. So it's a long game for sure, but I think right now is a great time to buy cards. So if you're in the market for something other than what you have, like let's say you're on like a R7 370 or an R9 290, like in my opinion right now, if you're on one of those cards, ditch those and buy something that's at least one gen old. Well, that is one gen. I wouldn't go 2 or 3 gens back at this point. I would say Maxwell's good, Pascal's good, and then you could go for like an RX 480 or 580 because most of those are going to be new though. But if you can find some used ones for sub $200, then you're also sitting pretty. So yeah, it all really depends on what you're interested in spending. And for the most part, you're going to find better value in the used graphics card market right now, just because that influx, again, of cards that people bought for mining and other purposes has finally taken hold. And this is what we talked about for a long time. So it's really great to see. And I'm impressed that that prices are so much lower than they were 6 months ago. They really, really adjusted. Normal viewer 199 super chat. Thank you, my dude. Which is better, GTX 1050 or RX 560? Honestly, I'd have to go back and check. There are plenty of benchmarks online. I hate to just throw that at you. I have experience with the GTX 1050, but not the RX 560. I know they're very similar, and I'm sure in some titles they will trade blows. I will say this: even though NVIDIA changed, and I say this quite a bit, NVIDIA changed the GeForce Experience UI. They make you log in now, which I think is stupid. It's just a way for them to gather, user data. I prefer GeForce Experience for Shadowplay because I use Shadowplay for a ton of stuff. So if you're used to using Shadowplay and then you want to, you're considering migrating to AMD, and let's say you have the choice between an equivalent, let's say a 1060 versus a 580, and they're both similarly priced, and you expect that they're going to perform on par with each other as well in most cases, then I would choose the 1060 personally because I prefer Shadowplay. And that's only because that was something I was used to earlier in my PC gaming career. I was just more used to Shadowplay, and having to adjust to the AMD whatever they got going on now, it's a big change personally, and that's just me. But I'm not gonna try to hide the fact that I prefer Shadowplay. I don't think that makes me a fanboy for preferring one UI over the other, and that's certainly not going to stop me from calling out garbage when I see it on either the green or red team. But I'm just more familiar with those drivers and that UI, so that's why I choose it. Jonathan Mercado, thank you for that $5 super chat, my dude. Love your music choices and videos. I appreciate that. Notice you use Sundriver's Orion in several of them. Are you a big Progressive House fan, or is it coincidence? In my downtime, I listen to a lot of rock, hard rock, occasionally into like pop stuff, but most of it's pretty like classic rock or hard rock vibe. But Progressive House, okay, so I intentionally went for Progressive House sounds, that those tones, that kind of feeling, right? Because I feel like it gives the videos a sense of kind of like peppiness and excitement in a situation where you might not be super excited to want to learn about tensor cores or ray tracing or just a random insert science topic here. So when we do those explanation videos, like in the Crash Course series and in the Minute Science videos, I try to keep it kind of lively on the music side of things, because I feel like at times it can get very boring listening to just me talk about stuff, and I feel like the music plays a big part in that for a lot of people. So if I played some like really mellow, chill music, like you probably would get super bored and leave and click away. But if I keep the music kind of fast paced and interesting, but not like overkill to where you're just listening to the music, then it's more enticing and it keeps you interested. I don't know. It's probably some subliminal thing I'm sure people have done research on and all that jazz. But I like the music. I like the way it sounds, and I think it fits the profile. So yeah, it's not really a coincidence. It's intentional, but I'm not sure if it's intentional for the right reasons or not. It's just kind of me experimenting with what sounds good under what situation. Okay, here, let's see. Zana MR, is 2600 better than 2600X? Value for the money? In most cases, it's a better value. Yeah, I would recommend the 2600 over the 2600X unless they were the same price. Maybe, I mean, in the situation in which they're maybe $10 apart, you could say 2600X because you might get that extra 100 or 200 megahertz out of an overclock. But in my testing, they both overclock almost identically anyway. So the 2600 would still be the better option there, despite only a $10 delta. So yeah, I would say 2600 is good enough. You're not going to buy that and go, oh, I wish I had bought the 2600X. Like, this is not going to happen. You might feel that way with R5 with respect to R7, but between R5 CPUs, at least on the 2600 and 2600X, you're not going to notice a difference. And so, yeah, I would say it's the better value just because they're usually priced about $20 apart or more. Let's see, scrolling down here. Ooh, okay. Nick H. Hey, Science Studio, I have some thermal paste from my CPU. Is it a good idea to put it on my GPU? Yeah, I don't know how you... Oh, you mean you got thermal compound from... It's just something that you apply third party? I'm not sure if you're like talking about scraping it off the cooler or not. You can... as far as I'm aware, you can reuse thermal paste. I've done it more than once. The reason why you don't want to keep like removing a cooler from a CPU and then reapplying it over and over and over is because you get air bubbles and stuff trapped between the cooler and the IHS, and that can be an area of inefficiency where heat builds up, and that could heat your components up higher than they would otherwise. So that's why you don't want to do that. But if you just want to like scrape the thermal compound off and then reapply it, as long as it's not chipping and like super crusty, as long as it's liquidy and kind of not super viscous, but enough to where you can kind of play with it, I'd say it's still okay. I will run tests on that. I'm sure others have already, but I'm fairly certain that it's reusable to an extent. So yeah, and you can use the same thermal compound on CPUs and GPUs. Just be careful if it's conductive, then you want to be sure that you're not having that stuff run over onto other components on the board, whether it be your CPU or your GPU. Okay, let's see here. Lemonade says, answer this. I have an FX 8120 and a GTX 1050 Ti. Should I upgrade to i5 2400 or upgrade the cooler? It depends. I don't know your temperatures. If you're running really hot, then the cooler would be a sweet upgrade. Honestly, your platform is going to need to upgrade soon. I don't think it makes sense to upgrade to an i5 2400 because while you might have success with certain titles, they're essentially side grades to an extent. The IPC jump between the i5 2400 and the i5 8600, let's say, or 8400, excuse me, is going to be about 25 to 30%. So, and you're going to experience a similar jump as well from FX, maybe a little more than that. FX has not been doing well lately. So I wouldn't upgrade to the 2400. I would consider a newer i5 if you want to go with the Intel path. Otherwise, just buy a better cooler than the one you have. Okay, here, let's see. Andy Lucero says, making my first PC build. Thoughts on going with the NHD15 over liquid coolers? Look, I've grown to love air coolers and appreciate them more than I used to. I used to think it was so cool to have liquid cooling. I could say my system was liquid cooled, but at the end of the day, they're really not much better than their air cooled counterparts, especially for the price. So it's more of an aesthetic thing, I think, in most cases, because if you're going to spend $100 on an AIO versus $100 on an air cooler, you're likely going to get a higher TDP, you're going to get more thermal headroom, I should say, with the beefy air cooler versus an AIO. So like Deepcool Captain 240EX has a TDP of like 150-ish watts, which is okay, but it's not super good. Versus if you spent $100 on a Be Quiet Dark Rock Pro 4, right? It's this huge, air cooler from Be Quiet. That thing's got a 250 watt TDP, which means in theory you could overclock higher. You could, you'd be able to handle more heat output from a CPU with the air cooler versus the AIO for the same price. So a lot of times air coolers are actually better value for money, and you'll get better performance by spending less money usually, which is what value means basically. And then if you are worried about silence, like people buy AIOs because they're quiet, but big, beefy air coolers are just as quiet, if not quieter than liquid coolers, because you don't hear the pump. You don't really hear the pump most of the time anyway with AIOs, but there's the off chance that you do. And a lot of time pushing air through rad fins can be a louder process than pushing them through fins on a a heatsink from a CPU cooler, just because of the way in which rads work. You have thinner channels, thinner spaces for air to move through the rads, so they can usually be louder. And that's another reason I think going with air cooling is a good option. Of course, there are pros as well for liquid coolers, but that's my argument for air. So whether you agree or not, that's my experience, and I would say NHD15 is a great option for whatever CP you're going to throw into it. Jerry Jenkins, thank you for that super chat, my dude. $1.46. Interesting, interesting number, but I appreciate it nonetheless. And thank you for watching, Jerry. I'm going to scroll down here. Let's see. I drop iPhone. That's his name. Interesting. What's a good full tower case? Because I mean, looking to water cool eventually. I don't dive much into full towers. I would say that the one that I'm most familiar with that I appreciate is the Dark Base Pro 900, the Rev 2 model, which has the basement and did it have a tempered glass swing out door? I don't remember if it had a swing out door or not. But the Rev 2 version that I remember at Computex looked really nice. I'm pretty sure if it hasn't already been reviewed, I'm pretty sure you can buy it now. I'll have to check. I honestly, I've been so focused on the 601 that we just did a review on that I haven't even looked at the 900 Rev 2. But that one's a really good one if you're interested. I like the Dark Base Pro 900, and the Rev 2 model with the basement makes it look so much more clean in my opinion. So maybe you look into that one. And that's assuming that you're regarding a full tower, something that has 8 PCIe slots. You can build custom loops in mid towers all day long. I've done that so many times. So, I mean, the de facto design define R6, for example, or the Fantex Evolve X, or NZXT cases, or Fantex cases, like other Fantex cases. There's tons of options, and they don't have to be full towers to support liquid cooling. Paradox Games and Entertainment, $4.99 super chat, my dude. I appreciate that. Will my 1600X at 3.9 fare well with a 1080 for the win? I want to upgrade my 1070 for the win, but I'm not sure if I should upgrade my chip first. The 1600X is going to be perfectly fine, I would say, under most scenarios with a 1080. Even a 1080 Ti, I mean, if you really wanted to go up to a 1080 Ti, you would still see gains. Your CPU might be limiting you under certain scenarios, but if you plan on bumping in-game settings, like let's say you want to run in very high or ultra presets versus medium to high presets in 1440p with a 1070, then you'll be able to do that with a 1080 and probably maintain the same frame rate. And that's the jump. That's what you pay for, right? You pay more for the 1080 to have those better in-game graphics or to game at a higher resolution. So either way you choose to approach that, the 1600X is going to be just fine. I would be perfectly comfortable pairing that up. If you wanted in the future to upgrade, you could always swap the 1600X for a 2600, run XMP on your DDR4, and with those higher clocks, thanks to the Infinity Fabric and how they're tied to the memory frequency, you'll be able to get even higher FPS there. So yeah, that's just an upgrade path you could consider because that wouldn't require a motherboard swap. But if you wanted, that would be an upgrade path. If you wanted, you could do that, or you could do like an R7 2700. It would also be a pretty sweet bump as well. Okay, let's see. Scrolling down, I see the good questions. Scrolling down. Try nitrogen cooling from Smiley PC Tech. Yeah, I've seen enough people do that that I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole, frankly. It's just an enthusiast thing that makes no sense in the real world. I totally get it if you want to be cool and like say that you did this really cool thing and overclocked, but in all reality, like that stuff requires so much maintenance, hands-on. You can't just let nitrogen pump through your system and just play video games. You have to maintain it. You have to watch it. And you have to keep adding it. And so it's more or less just I don't know, it's just a little fun experiment people do. Like, I don't know, like you buy a fast car to drag race, but you can't actually drive it on the street, So it's just a temporary thing that you do to have fun. But in my opinion, it's not really worth the time and hassle. Maybe to get on the top 10 of some board, that would be cool, but I still don't think it's worth it then. To other people, sure, but to each his own. Let's see. Xanderkin903, will third-party 20 series GPUs have NVLink? I think that's already been decided. but I'll have to go back and double check. I'm pretty sure we've already concluded that, so we'll have to. I'm gonna have to double check, but SLI. I mean, the idea of it moving to NVLink now is that SLI bandwidth possibilities, right? The bandwidth support with SLI is limited with the new cards, meaning that they can handle so much more now that using SLI would essentially bottleneck the two cards communicating with each other. So that would be the need for NVLink, and that's why it was introduced this time around into more mainstream cards. Let's see. The random commenter asks, do you plan on buying an RTX GPU for your main rig or wait for Navi? I think you should watch my RTX videos, and that will answer your question for you. I have 3 videos on the subject, so that's why they're out there. You should watch those. That answers your question, I think. Let's see. Mr. Mink, stupid question. There are no stupid questions here. I'm making a black/white build. Is it worth the ugly Noctua? Any good similar coolers? Be quiet. I mean, I totally get it. Like, Noctua coolers and fans are great, but they're just ugly. Noctua does make, you can get their, trying to remember, the Chromax fans. I actually use them in a recent build for Lisa. You can get Chromax fans. Those are black, and you can replace the little rubber mounts on each corner to with white or whatever to match your color scheme. You can actually swap those out. So if you want to stick with Noctua, you can do that with their Chromax fans, or you can go with Be Quiet. They have dark coolers, almost black coolers. Those will look really good in a white and black build. Or you could go with Cryo Rig. They have some really nice, like the Quad Lumi. That's the one I use in my personal rig. That cooler looks really sweet in really any system. But yeah, black and white off the top of my head, I know that the Be Quiet coolers are going to look really good in there. And then if you wanted to go with Noctua, you would have to buy some Chromax fans and stick those into the coolers. But that's probably more work than you're interested in doing, and I don't blame you. All right, let's see here. Scrolling down. Michael Caballero. Not sure if you've answered this already, just popped in, but how long do you think that the cards NVIDIA dumped to the AIBs will last before the 10 series is discontinued? I'm not sure yet. Look, I think that we're going to start to see, I mean, this is going to happen across the board. It's not just one AIB that is having to deal with this. I think this is happening across the board because NVIDIA did overestimate the demand during the mining craze. So what you'll notice, and I think, I don't remember, I never looked for this specifically when Pascal rolled out, but can you guys recall off the top of your head, like if you went to Amazon or Newegg right now and you looked for, let's say, GTX 970 or GTX 980, as far as I'm aware, when Pascal rolled out, those older cards, the Maxwell series, was phased out fairly quick. And I have a feeling this time around that Pascal is going to stick around quite a bit longer than Maxwell did for the Pascal launch. So what I expect you'll see, because these RTX cards are frankly very expensive, you're gonna see RTX 2070s and 2080s and 2080 Ti's, and eventually the 2060 or whatever else NVIDIA rolls out with later on. They always do that. They release the weaker cards later because they're cheaper, margins are likely smaller, so they want to get most people who are impatient to pay more money up front. That's pure marketing. But I'm pretty sure you're going to see those RTX cards mixed in with Pascal for quite a while. That's just what I think is going to happen because there is a surplus right now, and that's what you're seeing in the used market and the new market. I think the new market is going to be hurt even more because people are choosing to buy used versus new because the used prices right now on sites like eBay are so good. Like I said, I just bought a 980 Ti. It was one of the best 980 Ti's you can buy from Zotac, the Amp Extreme model, for $260. You can get them for as low as $200, even less than that if you're really looking hard. And 1070s are selling for around $250. So they're looking really good. And that's just another thing that you guys probably want to consider. If you're in the market for a card, then that's just, in my opinion, a better option at this point. If you need one now and you don't want to spend $600, the used market is exactly where you should be looking. All right, let's see here. Paul S. at Science Studio. Any new Minute Science videos coming out soon? I love the way you break down and explain things. The video you made explaining hyperthreading was amazing. I've had a few Minute Science videos uploaded recently. I don't know how YouTube's dishing out the subscription notifications, all that crap. I'm sure we're getting shafted, which has been the case for several months now. But there are plenty of those videos still in the Minute Science playlist that you may not have seen yet. We have one on, I don't know if it's a Minute Science or Crash Course video, but we have one on tensor cores. We have one on ray tracing. We have a couple more on, I think, refresh rate and a few other topics. But yeah, we try to simplify those for you guys, and that's something that the Minute Science playlist is popular for. You guys like the simplifications, and let me tell you, it requires a ton of research beforehand. This is not stuff that I claim to know, off the top of my head. This requires a lot of research on my part because I don't know a lot about this stuff until I actually start taking notes and writing scripts regarding the topics that I'm researching. So it's just like anything else. Anyone can learn this the same way I do. It's just this happens to be my job, so I actually get to research things and present them in videos to you guys, and it's a fun job. It really is. I'm going to scroll over here to the live tab because I missed a couple super chats. Let me get to those. Okay, scrolling down, I see. Yep, there we go. Okay. So Paradox Games, Michael Caballero, I just answered your question. And Coalition Gaming. All right, small channel review video ETA. I know I keep getting asked this. It's my fault. I got to commit to it and just do it. I think it'll be a really cool video because you guys deserve to see some of the smaller creators who haven't gotten the exposure I think they deserve because YouTube's algorithm favors the big channels. Once big channels hit 1 million subs, they take off. And the reason why is because YouTube says, well, you're already successful. Let's make you more successful. And I don't blame the algorithm for doing that. Obviously, if you're getting more views per video, YouTube's making more money because they can play more ads in those videos. So it's a win-win for both the creator and the platform host, in this case, YouTube. So you just got to break that barrier, and it's not like they're asking for handouts. These people aren't really contacting me saying, hey, are you going to have my channel in this? Are you going to have my channel in? It's more about just who I personally think, who I've seen deserves more recognition. And if YouTube's not going to do it, then I'll do it. And hopefully other people will do something similar because I'm not in the business of giving out handouts, but if I see somebody that doesn't have the recognition I think they deserve, I'm going to go out of my way to point it out, even if my traction in this game is fairly small. I'm not worried about how many people end up subscribing. I don't have a goal for that person that I'm trying to showcase in the video. I just want to show them a little bit of love because it's just, I don't know. Yeah, a lot of the tech tubers like, oh, we're not competitors. We're not, we don't compete with each other. Like, that's all a bunch of BS. That at the end of the day, they're all looking at each other, looking at how many views they have, how many subscribers they have. We're all in the same industry. We're all in the same business. And anybody who tells you that they're not in the business of competing, that they're not here to whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, if it's their full-time job, they're going to be worried about it. Because if some channel comes in and completely cuts out this other person, who was doing well for a long time, then they're going to be, that's going to hurt hard financially. In any business places like that, not just YouTube. But I'm not worried about it. I mean, it's something that it's going to be there no matter what. You just got to keep doing you, keep trying to be unique, do something different. And if, if fate decides that that your channel is going to be successful, it will. If YouTube, I guess I should say, YouTube is the overwatcher right now. But I don't know, it's just YouTube's kind of a pain sometimes. This video will probably get demonetized because I said that now. There are a lot of good questions I am seeing here. Wow, look at this. Wade Cohn, Science Studio. How much of a performance loss does thermal throttling have on gaming, and how can I prevent it from happening if I am aiming for a higher overclock without an AIO? You can overclock pretty decent without AIOs if you have beefy air coolers. It depends on your TDP. You'll know. If your CPU is thermal throttling, you need to drop down your frequency. And you'll know when it thermal throttles. If you are not overclocked and it's thermal throttling, then you might want to check the thermal paste between the CPU and the cooler, because you might be running on some super old stuff that's just not transferring heat very well. If you're overclocking too much and it's thermal throttling, you need to drop those clocks. You do not want to deal with an overclock that throttles when you're playing games and other things, because you're going to experience FPS rates that are going up and down all the time, and that's annoying. Nobody wants that. All right, let's see. Ray Lim, do you think Razer product quality is garbage? Look, I haven't tinkered with too many Razer products before. I've played with the Razer Blade Stealth laptops. They're pretty nice. The only thing that really bothers me there is the texture. You know, like the fingerprints stick to those dark surfaces really easily, and I don't like that. That's one of the reasons why I didn't get a Blade Stealth when I was looking for an Ultrabook. And the only other Razer product I've ever touched is Lisa's Kraken headset. And that headset's cool, but I still think there's a pretty decent markup on that device. So, you know, you could get the same quality, I think, in a product that costs $20-30 less easily. You're just paying for the Razer name, which is similar to what Apple does and Ferrari and whoever else. You know, anyone that has recognition that people regard highly, you know, socially, economically, you're going to pay a premium for it no matter what. That's just because they can, because the demand is there. That's supply and demand. That's all simple econ 101. All right, let's see. Scrolling down. Everyone's Craig. The way you guys are saying the name. I see it. David Morris, thank you for that $10 super chat. My dude, how you doing this Sunday night? What would you think if I said that Canon is turning into the Apple of cameras? Last gen features at next gen prices. You know, honestly, I haven't dabbled too much in Canon. The reason why is because they're really expensive. And that's just something that I've always thought of Canon. I know that they're really good for video, and that's why a lot of tech tubers and just YouTubers in general use Canon. But in my opinion, you know, you could get the same, if not better quality under certain circumstances with a Panasonic G85, like the one that's sitting right there. I've used that thing for over a year now, and I guarantee you guys can't tell sometimes when I'm using this camera versus my $3,000 mirrorless Sony A7S II camera, you know, and this thing was only like $600-700. So it's not really about the camera price as much as it is what the camera can do. You know, you should consider price with respect to what it can do, and that's why I haven't chosen Canon, because from what I've seen, Canon offers comparable performance, slightly better. I mean, I know their dual pixel autofocus is really good. There are certain Canon aspects that I would like to have in my current cameras, but I'm not going to pay $3,000+ for them. Not gonna happen. What's up, Haywood Jablome? He says, "Hey, science." I gotta scroll down here. I'm behind a little bit. Let's see. Bass said, when will Intel release their 9th gen CPUs? Nobody knows, dude. And if they do, they can't talk about it. Jow, can the MateBook X Pro game? Yes, it can. You should watch my video because I talk about whether or not it can game. Let's see. Jeff Phillips, if beans are a vegetable, why not chocolate? I don't think they're the same. I don't think they're from the same root, if you know what I mean. I don't think it's not like that. It's the reason why tomatoes are fruits, right? Most people think tomatoes are vegetables because they go in salads, but they're actually fruits by definition, as far as I'm aware. And as far as I know, that's not the same relationship that you're trying to make. Interesting. You tried to catch me off guard, though. You got close there. By the way, folks, these names scrolling down below, if you're wondering how to get into that list, these are all the people that send me money, basically. They're Patreon supporters, and they are channel members on YouTube. So if you're wondering why people in the chat have batteries next to their name, that's because they are channel members. It's like $5 a month, and you get special badges and stuff to use in live streams and in the comment sections of videos. And it just shows that you want to support us a special little way. Not required, of course, by any means, but we do appreciate all of our members and our Patreon supporters. Also, we have our open to the public Discord down below. We share that with Science, I almost said Science Yes City. That's the name of the Discord, but we call it that because we are tag teaming it with Tech Yes City. So Brian over there is good people, and we have good conversations. We actually play a lot of games too in the Discord, a lot of PUBG and stuff. So if you guys want to head on over there, you can talk with us off the live stream about anything and everything, basically. And sometimes we get into the voice chats and we talk with people too. So if you feel like it's worth your time, I invite you to check it out. Coalition Gaming says, Craig sounds like if Greg had a really scuffed twin brother. Yeah, it's a much, like, to me, like, Greg is like a super unintimidating name. It's not like for something ferocious. I don't know. I only think of like Russian names when I think of like some like hardcore or rough names, but I don't know. Greg to me is like the most unintimidating name on the planet. Let's see. Scrolling down here. Haywood Jablome asks, where do you get your haircut? I actually cut it myself. Believe it or not, I'm not even joking. I just stand in front of a mirror and just chop it up. I'll use the razor sometimes and trim the sides and kind of fade it up top, and then or do like the transitions. And the hardest part's always the back, because you can't really see the back. So you have to like turn around in the mirror and act like you're doing it right and hope that you cut straight. But that's it. Yeah, and I do it because it saves me time, it saves me money. I'd rather not drive to a barber and then pay a barber $20 plus a tip, when I can do it myself for free and I can cut it exactly the way I want it. And I've done it so many times now that I'm actually pretty good at sculpting it the way I want. I'm not confident enough to open a barber shop or anything, but confident enough to want to save $20+ and an hour of driving. So yeah, there's that. All right, let's see here. Scrolling up. Okay, the Killers. Hey, Science Studio, I'm getting a 90 Ti refurbished back from Gigabyte on Monday from an RMA. I play at 1440p and was wondering if I should wait until the 2070 GPU to release to upgrade. Thoughts? No, I don't think you're going to want to do that unless you feel like spending 500 plus USD on that. Look, a 90 Ti is going to be comparable to GTX 1070, and those cards are perfectly capable in 1440p. So I don't really see a need to upgrade unless you feel like throwing money at NVIDIA for a card that is going to be better. We don't know how much better yet. It all really depends on how these cards perform, and we'll find that out shortly within the next week or so. David Morris, another $10 super chat. My dude, want to team up to build a 24 gamers, one CPU system for a local nonprofit child care center. No companies want to listen to me, want to make history with me. That sounds really intense, my dude. Really intense. 24 gamers, one CPU system. Yeah, I don't even think I have the connections to pull that off. That would require a very expensive CPU and several graphics cards. I don't know any AIB, or I don't know anybody who would send me that many graphics cards either. So we'll see. I think that's a stretch, though. I don't think you need 24 gamers and one CPU. If you want to do something for a non-profit childcare center, you could, depending on what they need. Like if they want really beast gaming systems, I think they would be fine with some cheaper end gaming systems that could still do the job. Like they don't need the best of the best, especially when it's for charity. I think, something that's reasonable that'll still solve the problem is what I would shoot for. So that might be a little overkill there, but I do like the direction. If you have any more thoughts on that, you can tweet at me or you can message me in Discord. Strange Love, what's your opinion on the promises of strong AI? Not really sure yet. Look, AI is a really weird thing that we keep hearing thrown around, and in all reality, AI can be used so many different ways. And they talk about AI and tensor cores and RT cores and stuff for the purposes of ray tracing and computing and predicting. They have a lot of 3D modeling systems and forecasting systems and all this stuff that uses this architecture very well. And they dub all that AI, right? But in all reality, artificial intelligence is just a way for a system to replicate algorithms and predict things based on past experiences. You're trying to get it to think for itself based on historical context, based on data. You can have things read. You can have systems read entire textbooks, in a minute, and that system will spit any info back at you. But getting it, to the point where it's aware, where it wants to learn more, and it learns languages, and it just, that's where it gets scary. We're literally there, folks. We're right on the edge of this. AI, it takes on many forms is what I'm trying to say. It can mean like the literal AI when you think of like Terminator Judgment Day stuff, or it can mean just the simple things behind how, graphics cards interpret motion and stuff like that. You can use AI for a ton of stuff. And honestly, it's kind of like a marketing gimmick now. Like they'll say it's a, artificial intelligence, blah, 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 blah. I think it's a word that's been overused to the point where it doesn't mean what it used to mean. That's my take on it. Okay, let's see here. I see a lot of good questions, folks. See a lot of good stuff. Billy at Science Studio, have you ever used an EVGA CLC? Someone needs to have them rework their software to match the quality of the hardware. No, I haven't actually used one. I've seen a lot of other tech tubers use them and promote them. I've just never, I don't know, the coolers look okay to me, but they don't stand out in any unique way, in my opinion. So that's just something that I've never jumped into. I could get them someone, I'm sure, tomorrow, but it's just another AIO that uses a pump that other AIOs use, and That's really about it. It's got to be something weird. At this point, like AIOs have to be super strange. They have to have some unique pump design or some weird radiator, array or something to stand out enough to where I feel like reviewing it. Unless you guys are just looking for performance, and in most cases, AIOs are going to perform comparably to each other because they all use similar pumps. That's just the truth of the matter. So yeah, okay. Excuse me. Let's see. Someone says something about FPS being locked in Witcher 3. Mustafa Alazzo, or Alasta, Mustafa Alasta. That's how you say your name, I think. Witcher 3, if it's locked at 60 FPS, you have VSync on. That's what it sounds like. Scrolling down here. Let's see. I see some good stuff. Fabricio Gonzalez says, hi, I want to play Fortnite. I don't play Fortnite because I think it's dumb. I'll probably get crucified for saying that by certain fan bases, but I just don't like Fortnite at all. Della Crawford, advice for high school freshmen. My dude, grades matter. I don't care what anyone says. Grades matter. Take that from somebody who is in that. I mean, I'm about to finish my grade career, right, in school. Like I'm going to be finished with my master's in business in a month, and I'll finally be able to say that school grades no longer pertain to me other than my historical grades, right? But you're going to be graded on everything in life. You might not get A's, B's, and C's and everything else in your daily work life, but people are grading you. Your boss is grading you. Your coworkers are evaluating you. You're getting watched by customers if you're in the service industry. No matter what, you're always going to have to worry about performance. And grades are a way to gauge that. I don't always agree with the way that grades align with performance metrics. Like sometimes there's curves, sometimes there aren't. Sometimes the professors suck big time. I had a thermodynamics professor who sucked big time. If he's watching this video, you sucked big time. But, that's just life. You're going to have to deal with stuff like that. And I think grades teach you how to manage and how to play the game, because if you're in a job and let's say your boss likes it one way and you're used to doing it another way, you got to play the game. You got to do what your boss tells you to do if you want to impress them and keep a job. So it's discipline. It's just academic discipline. Some people will be perfectly fine in life without caring about grades. Some people flunked out of high school and are millionaires, billionaires now, but that's the exception. Right? It's not the norm. And that's what I want to stress. So when I say grades matter, it's not because I had good grades in school. It's not because I valued my education. It's because the world cares about grades, and they're never going away. You'll stop seeing A, B's, and C's, but you'll see evaluations, performance evaluations throughout your career. I'm certain of it. So yeah, this is where life matters. High school and up. This is where it counts. So no pressure or anything. All good, my dude. All right. Let's see. Tomislav Selic. Do you believe we have reached the maximum of how much we can increase horsepower by reducing size? Even NVIDIA CEO said that we have reached the maximum of Moore's Law. What's your opinion? I have a video on this, actually. What's next, right? Where does Moore's Law kind of fall apart? Because we're at the end of that right now. Moore's Law was like, I think 7 nanometer or 5 nanometer was where it stopped, but we always find ways to get around those barriers, right, with quantum tunneling and things preventing us from getting smaller than that from a node perspective, right, when it comes to transistor size, the gaps between transistors and power tolerances and all of that, carbon nanotubes and stuff like that are ways to get around that issue. I don't think we're ever going to hit a wall per se. I mean, we're always going to find a way to innovate, and that's something that has sparked so much innovation in the past, is that race to be the first person to do something, to make it work the way it's intended to work. So yeah, I think with respect to anything, it doesn't have to be CPUs. It could be cars. It could be jets, planes, cell phones, whatever. I mean, all that kind of relates to it, But you know what I mean. There's really never a limit, I don't think, because we're always going to find a new way to do something, and we have since the beginning of time. So we'll see. Other than like cutting bread, I mean, there's no way to simplify cutting bread, I don't think, other than like having a machine or a robot do it for you. But then it's kind of overcomplicated at the same time, because look how complex the robot is, and all you're having to do is cut bread. So you're kind of taking 100,000 steps backwards to do a simple task. Anyway, Yeah. Innovated with innovation. Did I say it like that? Oh gosh, I really dread. Sometimes I go back and watch these live streams, and I'm just like, this is what happens. This is when you have a live stream, it's off the cuff, folks, and that's why if you plan on watching, these are the ones to watch, because not because I care about how many people are watching the live stream. I don't know how many people are watching right now. 264. That's not too bad on a Sunday night. I'm actually pretty impressed that this many people are willing to deal with my voice for this long. We are about an hour in or so, we'll answer maybe 10 or so more questions depending on how long and dense they are, and then we'll move on. Let's see. Reagan Marcellus, wait a moment. How is this tuber involved with my man Brian? I feel so dumb and out of the loop now. Tech Yes City, aka Yes Man, is the greatest YouTuber. Yes, sir. Brian and I have tag teamed the Discord for quite a while, and he's good company. Brian's a good guy, genuine guy. Straight up, he'll just tell you how he feels, and I respect that in people. You can't hurt somebody's feelings if they want you to tell them exactly what they feel. And I like that. I like being told what people think of me to my face, not behind my back, not sugar-coated. I don't like any of that. I'm a straight shooter, and I expect people would do the same to me as I intend to do to them. Sometimes that rubs people the wrong way. I'm not in the business of making friends per se. I'm in the business of making videos that are enjoyable and educational, that all of you are willing to watch. And obviously, if they weren't enjoyable and educational, you probably wouldn't watch them, and I would go out of business. So there you go. Okay, let's see. Okay. DBNX1701. He says, Craig. First off, my name's Greg. It's Greg. There you go. Does Tron still fight for the users? Yes, he does. I love Tron. Tron Legacy is a good movie. The original Tron's cool too, but Tron Legacy, I don't know, that kind of got mixed reviews, but I thought it was really awesome. So, yeah. Now everyone's saying Greg. More like Craig. Oh my gosh. I'm going to do it. There we go. There it is. Oh, Cody says, can I get an F in the chat? Restoring my MacBook and nothing's working. RIP. F, Cody. F. That blows, dude. Strange Left says Greg's List. I've had people tell me that I should call the playlist that, but not all of our videos are Craigslist videos in that playlist, so I keep it at I read, because it's just, I basically read stuff and talk about it. Anyway, you guys are interested in, it's really weird, because you guys like the videos that require the least amount of time to produce. Just so you know, I put time and effort into some videos that get 10 or 20,000 views, versus videos that take 20 minutes to put together. They'll get 1 million views, and I'm just like, what the heck? Because then I'm reassessing the entire validity of the channel and what I'm actually doing with my life, because I'm spending all this time to get 10,000 views, which at a CPM of 1, is $1 per 1,000 views. It's not really a lot of money for all the work put into that video. So yeah, I don't think you guys realize how little, how not much money we make per video. If your CPM is anything higher than 2, you're doing pretty good. Let's assume for all intents and purposes the CPM is 2. That's cost per milla. That's how much money you get paid per 1,000 views, and you can look at your total view count versus your monthly revenue and kind of break that down, or you can just base it off of the amount of money earned per video. Some videos make $10 straight up. On this channel, I'll make from a certain video only $10. Other videos will make $200-$300, but some videos make $10. And that's just that's just the way of the game. You don't know what videos, to an extent, will do well on YouTube and which ones won't. It really depends on several factors, whether a video is shared, goes viral. Let's say it's shared on a subreddit of let's say AMD subreddit or Intel subreddit or a PCMR subreddit, and it gets a ton of views through that. That's a whole different audience that I wasn't talking to in the video directly that is now watching the video. So there's a whole massive views there. Let's say it was shared on Forbes or CNN or Fox or MSNBC or one of those news stations. All those different outlets are ways for me to gain to get views outside of just my average subscriber base. And the videos that do that it's difficult to predict. You don't really know. It takes a certain person. Pepsi just opened the door. I don't know how cats are evolving. Anyway. Yeah. But she's interesting. But yeah, the YouTube game it's an up and down game, and that's why it's really difficult. It was difficult, especially in the beginning, to decide to do this full time. Because I've said this before, if I wanted to work in my field of study, I have an engineering degree, a petroleum engineering degree. I could work in the field right now on a rig somewhere making $100,000 easy. With a master's degree, an MBA like I'm about to have next month, that's even more money. That may be a 20K signing bonus. That's a lot more money than I'm making now on YouTube. And YouTube is not certain. I don't know tomorrow if my channel is even going to exist. YouTube could just delete it whenever they want. My fate rests in their hands, and in your hands ultimately. If you decide not to watch videos, if all of you stopped watching, then I wouldn't make any money, and I'd have to move on, and I'd probably go back into the industry or do something else. Whatever. I have options, and that's what I wanted to make sure that I had before I did this full time, because there are other people out there, they don't have those fallbacks. They either don't have degrees or they don't have prior experience in another field. And if their YouTube channel fell apart tomorrow, which is unlikely, but if it happened, there you go. So it really just depends on the audience, on the creator, him or herself, what they're doing with their content. If it takes a wrong turn, then that's the end of it in a lot of cases. So, yeah, just a little inside scoop. If you guys want to know what goes on in my head on a daily basis, I wake up and say, whew, my channel's still there. Not that I have a reason to be concerned that my channel would disappear, but anyway, it's a possibility nonetheless. And I check revenue because I don't know what I'm going to make today. How much money am I going to make today versus yesterday versus tomorrow? I have no idea. So, it's all up in the air. Let's see. Next L says, Gregory, my dude, do you like the open source such as Linux and AMD and so, or are you a performance guy? With respect to Linux, I don't like Linux. I've used Linux like twice. I used it in a Chromebook. I flashed Linux over Chrome OS because I hated Chrome OS, and then I hated Linux more so than I flashed Chrome OS back. Yeah, that's my very limited experience in that. Software is not really my thing. I dabble a little bit in it. I can do some basic stuff, HTML5, little CSS. I'm trying to teach myself more about that. Then I'm going to get into some more technical stuff, C++ and whatnot eventually. But I want to get more involved in the software side because up to this point, it's just basically hardware. And I didn't learn much of the software stuff in engineering school because I wasn't an electrical engineer. I was more mechanical. So it never really filled the gap there. So eventually I will. I think when I finish school, I will jump back into it just as like a part-time kind of study that I think will pay off in the long run. Yeah, C++, HTML, Java. Yeah, JavaScript's another one. I want to learn JavaScript and even back-end stuff, whatever. Let's see here. Grape. Hey, I have a question. Will the lower-end 20 series cards be called the 2050? Nobody knows. I have no idea. I'm sure. If they're not RTX capable, they'll still be called GTX, but I'm sure they'll be called the 2050, 2060. That's what I would assume. If it's something other than that, surprise. Anyway, Jeff Phillips, don't quit your day job. What if you work nights? That's true. Don't quit your night job. Look, taking a leap of faith, man, into YouTube full time is a scary thing, but it's fun at the same time. You are kind of, to an extent, the master of your own fate. Being your own boss is kind of weird, but fun and also stressful. I probably work 10, 12-hour days. It's happened quite a bit recently. You just keep working and working and working. You don't realize that you should have stopped to eat dinner, and that's just one of those side effects of working at home and working for yourself. So, and when I say working for myself, I just mean not having a boss per se. So, anyway. John Marhefka says, hey, what channel are you streaming with your wife on? So sometimes we stream that on YouTube, but most of the time it's streamed on her Twitch channel. So Lisa's channel is called, it's Shifty Studio YT, but it's twitch.tv/Shifty Studio YT. It's down below. It's in the description. So it'll say Twitch, and then you'll see that URL. Click that URL, and then that'll take you to her page. I invite you to follow her if you want to subscribe. She'll appreciate that, but all she does is game there. And she does a few more things as well, but primarily gaming, CS:GO, even like World of Warcraft. Sometimes she'll do PUBG and Fortnite. So it's not just like a single game that she plays, but she loves doing that. And she's a good streamer. She really is. So she pays attention to the chat. Pepsi's up here and she's stepping on everything. Pepsi, you want to say hi? You want to say hi? Say hi. It's Beppis. Just kidding. Her name's Pepsi. She's gonna scratch me. Oh, you want to go up there? She ain't having it. Nope, she ain't having it. All right. I'll let her do her thing. Anyway, folks, Twisted Ninja, I see a $10 Canadian. Thank you for that super chat, my dude. Just a few bucks for good content, week in and week out, my dude. We'll keep watching as long as you keep making videos. I appreciate that. Look, your support matters. Each and every one of you matter to me. And even if I notice view counts going down, subscriber rates slowing down, doesn't matter. The guys that watch, the girls that watch, I know who you are. And I see you all the time in the live streams and the comments. I do. I read all the comments within the first at least few hours of the videos posting because I want to get impressions, what you guys think about the videos. It kind of tells me what to do next. And I really appreciate those people who watch every video regardless. Even if you know what the topic's about, if you know the answers to the questions asked in the video, you guys supporting me by watching the video or videos in question, it's really awesome. So thank you for that. I'm going to answer, let's say, one or two more questions, and then we're going to pivot on over to Lisa's Twitch stream. We are almost ready for that. She is in the other room, about to start that up. I'm going to send her a chat, or I'll just yell she's in the other room and get her to fire that up right when we end this one. So let's see. Israel Jarigui, God, I can't say that last name. Anyway, he says, what's your current daily driver smartphone? That daily driver is the LG V30. I love the V30. I love the screen to body ratio. I love the fact that it has a headphone jack. It's a decent camera setup. It's not the best camera setup by any means, but I've gotten used to the V30, and I also rooted this, so it's a lot faster now, and it's running a custom ROM, which is something that I haven't done in quite a while. I used to root all my phones back when I was trading them in high school, but now that this one's rooted, I'm just like back to the good old days. So anyway, excuse me. Okay. Ryan York, excuse me, says, how do you feel about paid advertising on your channel? We don't do it as much as other tech tubers. A lot of the bigger guys, they'll have ads on every video. Like every video they'll have an ad. And that's smart because it means that you're guaranteed some money per video. Even if the video doesn't do well, you're still making money from those ads. And usually they're contracted for like 4 or 8 or 12 ads over the course of 2 or 3 months. And it's insurance basically, you know, it guarantees you income, a certain amount of it that you can kind of gauge. We don't have that. In most videos, we don't have paid content. Most videos are not sponsored. But the ones that do, obviously, you'll know when they are. You know, this video is brought to you by, usually is what I'll say. Or I'll do something weird and quirky, and then I'll put, you know, sponsor in the description, and you'll see that. Very rarely do we do full-on paid videos, just because the reception on those is usually really low. People know that they're paid, so they don't really trust what's said, and I understand that to an extent. So the paid videos, you're going to see a lot fewer. I mean, we haven't done many of those anyway, but I kind of want to phase this out altogether. I like product placements. Those are nice. Like when a company pays us to use a case or to, you know, make an instructional video or something like that. Those are cool because to me, those are still informative. They're not biased because you're not reviewing anything. You're not giving an opinion while at the same time being paid, which is a conflict of interest. But you're you know, building relationships with these companies, and it keeps, like I said, it keeps me kind of in check because I know I'm getting at least this amount of money per video, which is a good thing. You know, it's not like a toss up every time I open the, you know, YouTube channel analytics every morning and say, how much money did I make? You know, you just don't know. Versus working a regular job, I worked 8 hours at $10 an hour, I made $80. You know, less taxes. So it's not like that here. But that does help. It's peace of mind, and it's actually, in certain cases, it's necessary, and maybe even vital at some points. Like if you're not pulling enough money in from YouTube alone, depending on your size of you know, your work, how many people you have working for you, how big your business is, it might be completely necessary. Twisted Ninja, $5 Canadian, my dude again. Don't forget to like the videos and subscribe, guys. Much appreciated again for that support. You are a bomb.com. Let's see, John Marhefka, good question. Do you get revenue if we don't finish the video all the way? And the answer is yes. Look, if you see an ad, and even if you skip the ad, if you still see it, that means that we brought an ad from an outside source through YouTube to you. We get compensated for that. Now, it's tiny amounts per view. It's like fractions of pennies. It's literally not even 1 penny per view, but it all adds up. So if 1,000 people watch, you know, that is where it really starts. Well, it's 1,000 people at $1 CPM. Still, that's only $1. But you know, if you have hundreds of videos in your playlist and they're still being watched occasionally, and plus you have the new videos coming out and all that stuff, that's how you make a living, because all that money kind of adds up per day. But yeah, if you see an ad at all, we get paid for it. If you use an ad blocker of any sort, we don't get paid. So if you don't see any ads, we don't get paid for them because you didn't see them. And that's just something that we have to take on as a risk. At least 50% of our viewer base uses an ad block. I can tell you that just from our channel analytics. The ones that are on mobile usually are the ones that we get ad revenue from, because they don't typically block ads on mobile. But anyone using an ad blocker in Chrome or whatever as an extension, that results in us not being paid, period. Not that doesn't help us still. I'd still rather you watch us than not watch us if you have an ad blocker, but that's just how it is. Yeah. Let's see. Scrolling down. Okay. Frog Chief says cats greater than dogs. Interesting. Is Greg a weeboo? What is this stuff? Oh my gosh. Look, you don't have to turn. I mean, if you're running an ad blocker 24/7, you don't have to turn it off to watch me. I don't expect you to change your ways just for me. I know how annoying ads can be. Just know that when you're running that, we don't get paid, and that's something that we have to. I mean, we get paid from you watching ads, whether it be embedded ads from companies like ASUS and EVGA and whoever else, or straight up, you know, Google AdSense from implanted ads that you see pre-rolls basically in front of YouTube videos. So either way, anyway, I'll leave you guys with that. I appreciate the good questions, the good conversations. I hope I shed some light on the stuff that happens in the background here on the channel. I want to be as transparent as possible, you know, and I'm actually contemplating whether or not to even show you guys how much I actually make, how much I net per month. I kind of want all that out there, because some of you think that we make tons of money, and that's like that could not be further from the truth. We do okay, but we're not making, you know, we're not making 6 figures. It's not like we're doing really well, relatively speaking. I could still be making, again, like I said, more money in the oil field. But I think at some point, you know, I'm gonna be just totally out there. And just show you guys, break down exactly how much we make and where it all comes from. Some people will never do that, and that's totally fine. I respect that. But I don't think it hurts for you guys to know what your contribution actually amounts to in terms of dollars. Because, like I said, the more you know, the more comfortable you are with me, the more you trust me. That's what I want. I want you guys to trust me when I review products, when I tell you like it is, you know, how I see things, my perspective. That's why you watch, you know, me. You watch me for my opinions, you watch Kyle for his opinions, you watch Brian for his opinions, and you guys at least respect those enough to watch our videos, and I want to continue that by being more transparent in the future. So we'll see. I'm still, again, debating how much of that I want to reveal up front, but at some point I will talk straight up numbers with you guys. So stick around, and I'm sure you won't be disappointed with the content we have coming up here very soon. You guys have been awesome. I appreciate the questions. This will be archived. You'll be able to watch it on the channel in the future. If you just tuned in, you'll be able to scroll back and watch the old stuff, all the other questions, and you can see the chat scrolling, by the way, right there. Thank you to our donors down below. I hope you saw your name at least once. If you're down here, I appreciate your support. I appreciate all of you watching this Sunday night, and stay tuned, because we're going to hop right on over to Twitch. Check out Lisa's Twitch link down below, twitch.tv/ShiftyStudioYT. Lisa and I and a bunch of guys from Discord, which you can join also because it's public, are going to play PUBG. So if you want to play PUBG with us, hop into the Discord. You see the PUBG lobby, the waiting area. Join that voice chat. I'll be in there soon, and we'll be able to ball up in some PUBG together. We always do war mode. We just have like a huge war mode where you keep respawning so it's not boring, and we just kill each other the whole night. So that'll be fun. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. We will see you soon. This is Science Studio, the 23rd after hours, I believe. and we'll catch you Sunday night on the 16th of September, or Monday morning or afternoon, depending again on where you